Thanks for listening to the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry, here to help educate, motivate, and put you on the right path to take control of your health through weekly discussions on topics in the medical field, public health arena, and in your community. And now your host, Dr. Barry.
And welcome to another episode of Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry. I'm your host, Dr. Barry PR, your favorite board-certified internist, founder of drbarrypr.com, as well as the CEO of PR Medical Consulting, helping you empower yourself with better health with the #1 podcast for patient advocacy, education, and affirmation. This week, we bring you a special guest, Dr. Brittany Brinley, who is a physician and entrepreneur out of Beverly Hills, Los Angeles area. And she's going to be talking about how she was able to get over a lot of the obstacles that were in her way to get to where she's at today, right? And I love these types of stories, especially when our physicians tell it, right? Because one, it allows physicians to be vulnerable. And then it gives, especially the general public, a different view, right? Because I think a lot of times when we're talking about physicians, we see someone who's really been at the top of the pinnacle of their career, right? Which is in healthcare. Physicians are usually up there, right? As far as, goals in mind. But a lot of times we only see that end result, right? And we don't really focus on the backstory that got them there. We don't focus on the hills and the hurdles and obstacles that were in their way to try to persuade them not to get to that top of the mountaintops, right? So definitely love when I get physicians who are willing to talk about their story. And again, we're going to talk about how, she went to a high school that her senior class had less than 100 people. How, again, no one in her family was in healthcare. They were physicians. She had no mentors. She had to drive almost 30 minutes away just for a wellness exam, right? Like for wellness checkups as a kid. So again, this is someone who the odds probably told her that, hey, you know what? Being in healthcare, being a physician probably isn't going to be what you're going to be at the end of the day, but she defied all of those odds, right? So can't wait for you guys to listen to this week's episode. Again, as a physician, as a person who's had kind of a similar background where wasn't promised to be a physician. Again, I definitely love when I get to hear these stories on the other side, right? And Dr. Brinley definitely, lets us know, her road to the top was not very easy, right? So let's get ready for another amazing episode here on the Lunch and Learn with Dr. Barry. This podcast is sponsored by the Lunch and Learn Community Merchandise Store, living out the motto, empower yourself for better health. At the store, you can get your favorite t-shirts, coffee mugs, even wristbands, and more. For a limited time, you can get 10% off your next purchase using the coupon code EMPOWER10. That's EMPOWER10, EMPOWER10. Just go to shop.drbarrypr.com to pick up your purchase and get 10% off today. And remember, 50% of your purchases will be donated to the 5-Star Scholarship Foundation, a nonprofit organization for high school students. All right, Lunch and Learn community, you just heard another amazing introduction from a guest that I'm definitely excited for you guys to hear about. Like we talked a little bit about introduction. I think a lot of times when we see our physicians and we see them working and, making amazing strides just in healthcare and, our own personal care. A lot of times we assume their story was this straight path and onto the beaten path, and they just kind of woke up and they were the doctor, right? And like I've said before, you guys have heard my story before, just the importance of understanding how one got to that destination can tell you a lot about, how they are, not only as just a physician, but really as a person in general. So again, Dr. Brinley, thank you for joining the Lunch and Learn podcast today and, sharing your story with us.
Well, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
So I gave a little bit of an introduction as far as, some of your background, but I do have some of my listeners who love this, just skip the introduction and go right to the main episode. Tell the listener community a little bit something about yourself. That may not be, directly in your bio, but you say, you know what, if they don't listen to anything today, at least they'll know this about me.
So born and raised in a very small farm town and, pretty socioeconomical poor area. And I think it just shows that you can, in this country, be anything you strive to be. So I think that's kind of the main background from my story. And, definitely wasn't an easy path and had some struggles along the way and kind of had to learn how to navigate through those myself. And I just want to get that message out there. And so other people know, if your mom and dad's not a doctor and you don't know what the heck you're doing, you can still make it through this process. You can still be a doctor. You just have to really want it.
And love, and we're definitely going to touch on a couple of those points, because I think that's something you said really kind of struck, is the fact that you have to really want it, because this is definitely not a journey for the people who kind of want to do this, right? Especially in a time like this, right, where where our profession is being tested on fronts that we probably never even really expected to be tested on. You definitely have to really want to do this thing we call medicine. And again, I love hearing other doctors' journey on, what made them, get up early mornings, stay up late nights to get here. So I think first things first, that, my Lunch and Learn listeners kind of want to know, why medicine for you, right? What was it about medicine and health that said, I want to be a doctor in the first place?
So I think my story is somewhat common into what struck my interest. And it was actually that I was very sick as a kid. I had very severe asthma. I was on steroids all the time. I was in and out of the clinics, the hospitals. I was intubated at a young age. I almost didn't survive that episode. And literally, even when my asthma got better controlled, I was uncontrolled. We didn't have as good of knowledge back then about asthma, but I was having attacks 4 times a week at night and waking up, airway, closed, can't breathe. That was like my life. But I always felt better when I went to the hospital or the clinic. And I just wanted to be like those doctors that always helped me every time, because I just thought that it was amazing how much quicker I got better once I saw them.
And that's a very, very common point, that a lot of times, especially for a lot of physicians, their introduction into this healthcare field was as the patient. And just recently, a few months ago, I remember I broke my fibula chasing after my son. And it is such a different experience when you're the patient, having to deal with the medical system and just healthcare in general. Than when you're kind of on the outside looking in. So I think that's an extremely common point, especially as a young kid, because a lot of times that can be a very traumatic experience. And fortunately, we didn't scare you away, because sometimes that does that too, where if you're very intimate with the healthcare system, you want to stay away from the healthcare system as much as possible. So being that, like you say, yes, I'm here. And yes, I actually feel good when I come to see, these people. We're definitely glad we were able to kind of steer you along this journey. Yeah,
it was good. Definitely felt better leaving there. So for me, I think it was a positive experience.
And I know you talked about the kind of the family upbringing, and you say you didn't have physicians kind of growing up as far as seeing, or was it more just like when you were like the patient?
Yeah, it was just when I was the patient. My dad has an associate degree, and he just worked his way up through a steel company in Ohio. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom for most of my childhood. She did later go on to college when I was older.
And what was that? What was that experience like, right? Especially when you first said, I want to be a doctor. And you didn't have, at least especially in your immediate family, you didn't have any of the immediate family who was particularly connected to the healthcare field. What was that experience like when you started telling people I want to be a doctor?
So honestly, and I know some other people I grew up with can vouch for this, that have gone on to do some miraculous things. When I remember I told my Spanish teacher, I was like, what, I want to be a doctor. And, we have to say it in Spanish. And she just looked at me and was like, okay. Like, that was literally her response. And I was like, no, I am. And she's like, oh, okay, all right, moving on. Like,
Wow.
And then I didn't realize it. I was just like, whatever. And I was very stubborn as a kid. And I think anyone who told me not to do something gave me more motivation to do it. So luckily, that was the kind of personality I was coming into this with. But yeah, statistically from my high school, like I said, I had between 65 and 80 classmates. Some of them did go on to do like the technical school. Only 6 of us went to college. 1 other went to grad school, and I'm only the second doctorate to come out of my high school.
Wow. That's okay. Yeah, that's
some amazing statistics. I know. When I look back now, I'm like, wow.
those are some amazing numbers, especially when you think that you didn't necessarily have an external, role model to look at, right? And just to really, that's again, I'm actually surprised by those numbers because not only is that a small class, but when you weave down and say like, wow, like when you look back and say, oh, I'm the only person who became a physician, like that's just a crazy feat in and of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually remember talking to my mom about transferring schools. And, my parents were very supportive, but my parents were very young as well and didn't know. And they're like, why would you want to, they almost took it personal. Like, why would you want to leave our small town and leave our school? And I already could tell them like, I need to go somewhere good where like my GPA is going to be ranked. All right now I'm getting straight A's, but I'm not sure it's good enough. I need like some sort of ranking on this GPA. So already in high school, I was like, I felt subpar because I wanted to be somewhere in a big high school where they ranked out your GPA, because there were kids taking very basic art classes who also were getting, 4.0 in my school. And I'm taking science and biology and math. And then I even took calculus and I'm getting a 4.0, but there's no difference between my 4.0 and their 4.0. So even in high school, I'd already kind of picked up on that. But I was talked out of changing. My parents
you were convinced. They convinced you like, you know what? We're not going to do that.
They scared me out of it.
And in your town, was there like one or two, prominent physicians, like community physicians? Like, what was that makeup like?
No, there were no physicians that I knew of in my town. So as I went to a pediatrician 30-minute drive away, 30 miles where I live, because the mile's a minute. That was the closest doctor. There really wasn't one in town. The closest one was, a few towns over, actually.
Ooh. And Lunch Learning community, I really want you to hear that, because I think sometimes we can be spoiled by the love of abundance. We can be spoiled by, the fact that by the time I go to Publix, I may pass 10 doctor's offices, and not realizing how much of a luxury that is depending on where you live at. And imagine having to spend 30 minutes just to get to not your doctor specifically, because like, oh, I only like this specific doctor. No, a doctor. Right. So again, Lunch Learning community, please understand, like, this is as you're growing up, you're experiencing the healthcare system as the role of the patient, and you're experiencing the distance associated with not having it really fully engulfed. But still, interesting enough, still you say, you know what, I still want to do this, right? And what was that decision like when, especially after high school? I'm pretty sure you did well in high school, and you said, all right, like I still want to go to be a doctor. Like, what was that decision like moving forward after high school?
Yeah, so that's also another fun story of mine. I got into a really good program. You know how there's these programs that shorten your course, so you can do the full 8 years, you do a 6-year. I got into a college that does have a 6-year, and you kind of had to prove yourself that first year to continue on into the 6-year program. The university was in Florida, and my parents, like I said, were pretty young and a little naive, and were just petrified I was going to go to Florida. And I don't know, my family theme is like, if you leave, you're going to do drugs and you're going to die. Like that's just like what.
And quick question, where were we leaving from? Like where's Ohio? Okay, so Ohio. Okay, yeah. That's okay. I can only imagine. Wow.
Oh yeah. So that ended up being a no. So I was not allowed to go. I was 17 when I graduated high school. So you need a parent's signature at that age on your student loans. So they told me I had to go in Ohio. And then at that point, I chose Toledo University in Ohio. And I chose that university at this point because it was the furthest from my house. So that's how I ended up there.
What's interesting is that sometimes we do need that breakaway from the familiarity of our home and some of the restraints, whether it be physically, whether it be mentally, that being close to home does. So I 100% understand that aspect of like, let me get as far away as possible from home without quote unquote leaving home.
Right. So, and then, we all have to take our exams before we start college. So I'm 4.0 student coming into this, like, okay, let me take an exam, whatever, I'm going to be fine. No, I think I failed 3 of the subjects as a 4.0 student. So I had to take prep courses, some of prep science courses actually, before I actually started the, 101, course 101 of chemistry, course 101 of this. So it just showed me too where kind of my high school stood. I mean, I remember even sitting in those prep courses and being with students that are like, oh yeah, I've seen this. And I'm looking at the material like, I have never seen this in my life.
Wow.
What is this? So again, it just speaks volumes that if you want to do something, you can do it, and I obviously quickly caught up. I ended up finishing all my courses in 3 years. So I did an extra major on top of it to finish out my 4 years to give me time to study for the MCAT.
Ooh, the illustrious. And I remember I tell people all the time that MCAT. I remember I was so naive. I remember I was at Florida State and I was a junior, I think, and I was telling people like, oh yeah, I want to be a doctor. Because I was the same thing. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor.
Yeah.
I had no clue that there was even such thing as an MCAT. And I remember my advisor asking me like, oh, well, have you studied for the MCAT? And I'm like, oh, what's that? Like, oh, well, that's the test you need to like get into medical school. I'm like, oh, you got to take another test just to like, it was such a new abundance, new thing for me. For yourself, where like, did you get mentorship once you got into undergrad? Because obviously you didn't have it when you were in high school, but when you became an undergrad student, was there someone there that you were able to kind of like say, okay, all right, let me just follow this person right here and let them lead me away?
Yes. So we actually all had advisors. I was in the honors college, so they were very good about having, advisor to a low amount of students, especially if you're in the honors college. And they tried to focus on people who are pre-med as well. Of course, you sit in your first chemistry class, and I'm sure a lot of people can vouch for this. They're like, look to your left, look to your right. Only one of you is going to be here by junior year. And you're like, what? No way. We're all going to make it.
Yes.
And then I think my 2, they put the pre-med kids together in dorms. And even by the end of the first semester, out of 3 of us, I was the only one still pre-med. The other 2 had already changed their majors. So again, speaking to, it has to be something that you want to do, but we did have advisors that helped guide us through this process, which made it much better. I'll speak a little bit to the female part of it, because I was definitely told even by my advisor in college, if you want to have kids, you don't be a doctor. It just is what it is.
And it's still there, which is crazy.
And I couldn't, looking back now, I can't believe they said it to me, and they said it so many times. At the time, though, I was very young and I was like, I don't want kids. I really felt that way. I don't feel that way anymore. But at the time, I felt that way. So I was like, oh, it's fine. I don't want kids. And then they kind of left me alone. I can't imagine a female who already knows they want kids at that age, because
and being repeatedly told
possible.
That like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it.
Yep.
It's a deterrent. Don't even waste your time. And I'm not sure if people do it subconsciously to try to help you, or they're really trying to sabotage you. But the amount of roadblocks that people put in front of you, especially when you're on this path. Again, that's why I keep harking back on the fact that you said like, no, you got to really want this, because there's plenty of opportunities for you to jump ship, right? Like, you could have looked to the left, you could have looked to the right, and you could have been one of those people not there, right, at the end of that 3-year block, right? But you're like, nope. Like, this is definitely something I want to do. And even when the Spanish teacher is like, nah, you sure? Like, oh, okay, sure, whatever, be a doctor or whatever crazy little girl. Like I could have, like, I'm pretty sure I could just see the face of that Spanish teacher when she was like, oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, like, yeah, right. It was kind of like, yeah, right. Doubtful, but okay, cool.
and as you're preparing for the MCAT, was there any concerns? Because this become the high school that you're in, and having to take these prep courses before going into the 101s, was there any like doubt that creeped into your mind at that point, or by that time you were like ready?
I think at that point I was pretty confident in myself and my test taking skills. I was actually in Europe when I studied for the MCAT. I did my junior year abroad completely at the Uni of Salford in Manchester, UK. So I was in Europe, and everyone else was, going to the pubs and having a good old English time. And I was in my dorm studying, but you gotta want it, like we always say. and
that life of studying is something that, again, I wish I'm an attending now, right now. Like, oh, maybe I'll be studying less when I become attending. Nope. Like, it's still like this the studying for some reason has not paused down ever since I said I wanted to be a pre-med, which is crazy.
The difference is now I think it's a little bit better because you get to choose what you study, right?
Yes.
You know, you feel there's a little bit more motivation behind it. Like, you know what? I feel like I don't know this really well. Let me go read up on that. Or, you know what? I heard about this great study. What kind of patients did they test? I want to read it. So I think, you know, in med school, I had a lot of times where I was forcing myself to continue sitting there. And I was looking at everyone else enjoying their life as they just graduated college, thinking, what am I doing? Why would I put myself through this? But now when I'm reading, it's things that I want to read and things that I want to dedicate my time to, which is much nicer than dedicating it to a curriculum.
Correct. And now the journey from undergrad to medical school, was there any, now did you end up staying still in the state, or did you end up moving at that point, or what was that journey like moving on to the next level? Because of course, unfortunately, you signed up to be a doctor and it still hasn't, like the work still hasn't stopped yet.
Yep. So, you know, I took my MCAT, I did well, but you know, it's still very hard. You obviously needed higher, and I'm not sure if it's like this today. I'm sure it is. You needed higher scores to get out of state than get in state. So I was just getting kind of better quality schools in state than I was out of state. So I chose Ohio University in state medical school. And honestly, I'm very happy I did, because I had most of my training at the Cleveland Clinic, and it was a really good experience.
And how was medical school like? How was because this is a dream of yours, and you're knocking at the door now, right? Like you're less than 4 years away from actually being called doctor. How was that journey with medical school? Like the first couple of years, because I'm not sure how your curriculum is. Was it the typical, you know, book work, class work for the first couple of years, and then clinic work the last two?
Yeah, so the first 2 years were completely book work. Actually, we graduated college in May, and Ohio University starts early. They do a straight anatomy for summer. So you start in the summer and you do all the cadaver work and anatomy work. And then you go into straight testing, you know, every week or bi-weekly, and just the curriculum and coursework. I struggled. I was young. I was one of the youngest people in my class. You know, a lot of people tend to do masters or take a year off or do some research. I went straight in. I just turned 22. And I really struggled with the fact that everyone was kind of graduated college and outliving their life and getting married. And I was literally still studying, because now I'm on my 5th year of this whole like sacrifice for studying. And I think at that point it started to hit me hard. Like, do I really want to do this? I put so much work. It was really hard, I think, sitting there at 2 a.m. being like, I have put so much work into this to put myself in this terrible situation. And I was young at the time, but that's how I just felt like I was trapped almost.
I used to remember, you know, looking at my friends on Facebook, and they're either on vacation or they're out the country or they're living their life. They got kids. They're doing all of these things. And I'm like, well, anatomy and physiology is not gonna study itself, right? And I used to think like, okay, I would have to like almost like, all right, it's gonna be over soon. It's gonna be over soon. Let's just get through this work here.
So I think 3rd and 4th year for me, and I'm definitely more of a hands-on person. So 3rd and 4th year, I was like, yes, let's do it. I was back in the game. I struggled a little bit 1st and 2nd year with just motivation to sit there and keep studying. I was also someone I didn't have to study a lot, and med school was a lot more study time than I was used to. So I think that was part of the adjustment as well.
Okay. So you had, it was almost too much time. Would you say was that the? Yeah,
I would just say, you know, I was definitely a crammer. I know there's people out there, and I was that kid, you know, I was the pre-med kid that all the other pre-med kids hated, right? Because I didn't study half as much as they did, and I got the same scores. But in med school, you cannot do that. And trust me, I tried. You cannot. You have to study. So, you know, I learned it and I went through it, and I was definitely happy to put 1st and 2nd year behind me and get out in the hospital. And 3rd and 4th year, I loved it. I was happy. And then at 3rd and 4th year, I said, yes, I made the right decision. I am happy. This is where it's at.
And what made you choose your career choice? Like and for those who don't know the listening community, when we're like literally tasked to decide what do we want to do for the rest of our life, we typically have those first couple of years of book work. That's great. But we typically have that 1 year and third year. And then by fourth year, we got to start thinking about it. Especially if you're if you're walking in there undecided. That's really how long we have to choose. Like, oh, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? Like when did that decision happen? That you realized I want to do blank for the rest of my life?
Yeah. So actually mine was when I was pretty young. In high school, I knew what type of doctor I wanted to be. And I will say I'm not that type of doctor today. So I wanted to do pulmonary critical care, obviously asthma. I went into, so I knew going into residency, I was doing internal medicine. I went to an osteopathic medical school, but I knew I was going to apply only to allopathic residencies because I wanted a fellowship and I wanted to open up that opportunity. So I did do allopathic residency and I actually got into fellowship. And then I decided not to take it.
I guess what happened that made you say, you know what? I don't want to do this.
So my third year of residency, I think at this point too, I wanted to do it for so long and it had been such a goal and a dream of mine. I had to do it for myself. I had to do it. So once I got in, it became a reality. Like, okay, I'm going to do pulmonary critical care. It was a 4-year program. So I'm like, okay, I'm kind of trying to swallow that. I got another 4 years of training coming up. Everything's already on student loans. I can do it. It's okay. Yeah. But then,
ooh, the student loans.
I know.
Which is such a driver in a lot of our career choices, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. So, and I just started thinking and I said, you know what? I'm actually a really well-rounded person. I get very involved in the academia of it. And I felt like if I did do pulmonary critical care, that was all I was going to continue doing. It's just going to be me in the hospital. I'm going to either be in the ICU or I'm going to be in the pulmonary clinic on my off weeks. And I just wanted to do more. I wanted to have a family. And I did feel like it might be, not that it's not impossible, anything's possible, but I felt like a lot more time would be dedicated to the hospital, to research, to medicine. And I felt like internal medicine would allow me to kind of round out my life a little bit better.
And again, I might be biased, right? But I tell people all the time, internal medicine is one of the best specialties out there. We love all the specialties out there, but I'm biased. I love internal medicine. And I remember that decision was kind of the same. Like I knew I wanted to do, in fact, I remember I was going to be like the community doctor, and I was going to be the person you had to drive to 30 minutes to come see. But I remember getting kicked out of the rooms for all of my women's health patients. And then after a while, I just said, okay, they keep kicking me out of the rooms. I'm not doing family medicine. I'm doing internal medicine, right? And that's that's how I kind of ended up there in internal medicine world. So you get into the internal medicine program, you become this internist, right? What was it like then, right? What was that feeling like when like it was official that I am a doctor?
I think the best, and I'm a little ashamed of this and a little not, but I got to tell you guys, when I got that first paycheck, I have been barely skating by for like years. I paid my whole way through this thing. There were times like unfortunately I had to call my mom, like, Mom, listen, I don't get paid till next week. I have zero groceries. Like, can you float me $100? So luckily, my mom helped me out when she could. And but yeah, that first paycheck, I walked into Louis Vuitton. I picked out a purse, a keychain, a wallet. It's all laying out on the counter. And I'll never forget, the guy's like, okay, what do you want? And I'm looking at it and I was like, yeah, I'm going to take it all. And he's like, what? And I was like, I'm going to take it all.
Hey, you know what I love about that is because I think a lot of times, and I see this a lot from my physician colleagues, is that they don't like treating themselves. Like it's very weird.
I feel like I deserved it.
You deserve it. That's what I keep trying to tell them. Like, no, you work too hard for this. One, you work too hard for this not to gloat about yourself. You work too hard for this not to reward yourself. Like no, you deserve it. Like it didn't just fall in your lap. Again, you said as a pre-med, hey, I want to do this doctor thing. even when you were pre-med and you were studying up and studying, early in the mornings, late at night, you still said, I still want to do this doctor thing. And even when you hit every single roadblock that was either purposely or, unconsciously put in front of you to stop you from becoming a doctor, you said, I'm going to go over that roadblock and still become this doctor. So every time I try to brag on my colleagues and I try to tell them like, no, it's okay to, let people know like, hey, I'm that person because like I worked hard for this. So I love that first. and I remember going from resident to attending. And I definitely remember that first check because I was like, oh my God, I've never seen this much money on one paycheck before. Like this is okay. This might have been the right decision. Like this might be.
I was like worried. I was like, the government's going to come after me because this is the most money I've ever had deposited into my bank account.
So as you got out, as you finished residency, what did we end up doing? And with just a career choice.
So actually, when I first came out, like I said, because I decided not to take that fellowship last minute, I started doing locum work, which honestly I felt was very rewarding. I got to go into these places that didn't have enough doctors, usually pretty remote areas, and help people. And they were actually very thankful. I trained in inner city downtown Chicago, actually. So you definitely encounter a lot of patients who aren't so thankful to receive medical care and are actually pretty demanding about what you're going to do for them and what you're not. So
we know those types of patients.
I really enjoyed rural medicine, to be honest, through the locum work. And they were really appreciative. And then when they heard, oh, you're from Chicago, you're from the big city, and they're just like so thankful. Thank you so much for coming here and helping us. And it just felt very rewarding and I really enjoyed it, to be honest. And then from there, you grow up, you meet someone, you get engaged. And so that's when the traveling stopped. The traveling
gotta stay a little closer to home, a little closer.
Yeah, he's like, you might should be here more than like 1 or 2 weeks a month. And I was like, yeah, probably, maybe. So at that point, I started post-acute care, right? Because internal medicine, you guys can do anything with internal medicine, locum work, nursing home work. So I was Monday through Friday doing post-acute care nursing home work. And then on the weekends, I was actually intensivist as a hospitalist. So I was their ICU hospitalist because I actually did love procedures. I was very well skilled in procedures. I was certified in all of them. So yeah. I did that actually at Loyola University on the weekends. And then I decided, okay, I set a timeline at 5 years post-graduation. I want to have my first business opened up. And actually through residency, I got into the aesthetic part of medicine. Again, internal medicine, you can do anything.
Anything. I love it. I tell people all the time, internal medicine, like don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on it. You can do whatever.
So I started doing the beauty stuff and the Botox and filler and threading and all that. And so, now I'm out in LA. I've opened up a concierge medicine practice and I am in the process of opening up a medical spa. And then I'm still doing some locum work to kind of fund my business upstart.
Now, the aesthetics, is that something that you did when as you were doing your locums? Was that something as a resident? Like, did you ever, when did you start saying this might be like something?
So I decided I wanted to go have fun in Chicago and the few days I had off, I didn't have enough money to do that and pay rent with residency. So I found there was a doctor looking to train someone to do his injections. And in the state of Illinois, you can inject under a doctor as a resident because technically I am a doctor. So as long as he's there on site, I can help him out and inject. So he would pay me a certain percentage of all the profits I made. And it kept me, going through residency financially to pay my loan payments that were due and pay my rent. So that's how I learned. And then I started to love it.
And that transition from doing it, because at least at that time in residency, it was kind of part-time. When did you start saying oh, you know what? I might be able to make this a bulk of what I do. When did that maneuver occur?
So after residency, I kind of told that guy, thank you so much for the opportunity, but now I'm an attending, right? And this isn't really attending wages. So I gotta be smart with my time and my money and things like that. But I wanted to keep up on the skills. So I was just pretty much doing injections in my friends' houses for my family. And then it became like friends of family, friends of friends, friends of friends of friends of friends. Then I have random people texting me like, hey, I know someone who knows someone, and can you do this? So I kind of almost started my own business without trying to. And then it kind of just turned into that. And I was doing that until I moved out to LA.
I love it because especially the physicians I interview here, I love the ones who have that business mindset, because unfortunately, a lot of our colleagues do not. And I think sometimes, and we talk about burnout a lot, I think a lot of the source of burnout usually kind of runs into the fact that a lot of us don't have the autonomy that we used to have, or we thought we would have once we became an attending. And being the business owner, being the entrepreneur gives a lot of people a lot of that autonomy that you're looking for back to you. So I definitely love the fact that, it just kind of found you. Not as if something you just happen to be very good at what you did. And when you're good at what you do, people will find you. And I tell my mentees that, I tell my physician colleagues, I tell anybody I try to get a chance to. I say, when you are good at what you do, you don't necessarily have to do that much work, because people will come and track you down. And this move to LA now has that. Like how long have we been out there? Like, cause we're going from we're in Ohio and now we're in LA. Like, what was that?
No. So actually, I've always kind of saw my business going best out in the LA area, and now my husband, he had a company in Chicago and decided to sell his company. So at that time, we were like, well, let's move somewhere warm. And I said, you know what? I'm approaching my 5-year mark soon. And I've always wanted to start my own business. I've always thought it'd go best in the LA area. And so we decided, we're both young, like, let's make the move. Let's go get by the water and get some good weather. And that was obviously after our third polar vortex. So we were ready to go.
I do not envy. I'm a South Florida born and raised. And anytime I even think about weather up north and I see snow, and I'm like, oh no, like I don't know how they do it. Especially Ohio. Oh, I can only imagine dealing with that type of weather. So we're here, right? We're doing our aesthetics, right? We're even opening up a med spa, which I think is a very smart thing to do, especially because, again, I think it just kind of complements the medicine that we're doing. What do we have? Like, what do we have left? Like, do we have any more goals? Like, remember we were as a kid, we said we wanted to be a doctor. Now we're here. Like, what? Like, right. Any more goals that we have to go after?
So right now my goal is to grow my businesses. So I have, like I said, my concierge business. I'm going to be opening up a medical spa soon, and I actually have a nursing home business as well. So
nice.
Those are my 3 things going on right now, which is plenty of work, I must say. And then I work in the hospitals just to keep up on my skills and, to give back. So
you still do hospitalist work as well?
Yes, I do. Yep. And that's mostly funding kind of the medical spa upstart is what that's doing.
Oh yeah, trust me, I know that game. I know that game very well. And I like I said, I'm excited because I love entrepreneurs. I love entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs who are physicians, right? Because that just makes it even sweeter. Because once you start writing your own rules, that's really where the happiness comes in, right? Like once you start deciding, like, hey, no, this is what I'm gonna do, and this I'm gonna do it because it makes me happy. And I think that's where the accumulation of, why medicine comes into play, right? Because as the physician, as the healthcare leader, right, you're able to do what you want to do, and you're able to serve as that expert de facto leader while doing it, right? So I absolutely love, the amazing stuff you're doing here. Before I let you go, right, I want to let's give a time again. If you have time to kind of shout out some of your businesses, and how can people join the concierge, and when can people get in the med spa? Let's put that out there. Like when?
Yeah. So I'm serving right now. My concierge practice is based in Beverly Hills, but I serve the greater Los Angeles area. I do house calls, imaging, lab work, whatever you need. I come to the comfort of your home discreetly. No one knows I'm there. No one has to know I'm there. So it's very convenient for the patient. I have weight loss plans. I do injections. I do injectable medications. We do vitamins, IV therapies, pretty much the whole 9 yards, the whole service. The medical spa will be opening up in Beverly Hills soon in the Triangle. Coronavirus has put that on hold a little bit right now. So, and then, my nursing home is called Jerry Heal. And what I do is I go in and contract with nursing homes, and I work as the medical director in some of those. And I see patients, and I have nurse practitioners that help me out. So right now, my website should be launching this week. It's taken a while, but it's going to be beautiful and it's perfect. And my web guy probably hates me, but it is going live this week. It's drbrinley.com. I am very vocal and been in some media lately, especially the Today Show's featured me, NBC Miami, Yahoo News. So I'm advocating for COVID-19, social distancing, and all that good stuff.
I love it. And I see it too, because I love it. I love it because it's as Lunch Learn community, I talk to you guys a lot. One thing that I love that our physicians, especially of today, are doing is that they're not running away from the leadership role that's bestowed upon them, right? We did all the studying, we passed all the boards, we did what we needed to do to say, hey, we are the leader. But a lot of times I would find ourselves kind of cowering away. Not cowering, I don't want to say cowering. That seems bad. But we would kind of shy away from being out in that spotlight, when, especially in a time like this, when we are needed. So I love the fact that you're out there and you're screaming from the rooftops like, hey, no, we need to do this. This is why we need to do it. And once people see you as that de facto leader, and they know that you're the person that can lead them to that promised land that we're trying to get them, right? That what makes all the difference. So again, thank you, Dr. Brinley, for, first of all, an amazing interview. And again, especially because you again give a light, because again, I have pre-meds who watch this. I know I have medical students who watch this. I listen to this, at doctors as well. And sometimes we kind of forget that all of our journey isn't the same, but our end goal should always be, right? So I love the fact that, you did not allow it seems like multiple attempts, unfortunately, to really, dissuade you for joining us in our profession. And I'm just, obviously we're much thankful that you did, right? We're thankful that you said, what, I don't care what you guys are telling me, I'm still going to do this.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, my biggest thing I want to tell the pre-med, med school is to just never give up. And don't listen to what people say. You can do whatever you want to do. Don't let anyone tell you what you're capable of. The only person that can limit you is yourself.
Ooh, I love it. And that is the end of Lunch Learn community. Again, Dr. Brinley, we will put, again, Lunch Learn community, depending on when you're listening to this, we'll make sure we have all our information in the show notes. If you are in the LA, Beverly Hills area and you need an amazing concierge physician, boom, here's one right here. Again, do not sleep. Because again, and guys know I love the onus of concierge, direct primary care. I could talk to you for days on that aspect alone. So I love the aspect that, that's what you're driving home, because we need it more than ever. Especially in this day and age where, patient satisfaction, physician satisfaction, everything seems to be going down hill, and we need more people who are like, no, we're still good here. I'm going to hold us afloat. I'm going to be the medical director, the concierge doctor, the media maven. I'm going to do all of these things here because I have to. So again, thank you for joining and, blessing the listener community today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for coming to the end of the episode. It is yours truly, Dr. Barry Pierre. I want to give my undying thanks to you for your support. Just getting to the end of the episode means that you at least enjoyed today's episode. Hope you were empowered by today's episode. Please remember to share this episode with at least 2 people that you know that would be greatly affected if they did not listen to today's episode. And if you have not already done so, subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a 5-star review, especially on Apple Podcasts or wherever you can leave a review. Leave a review there, because your support is so valuable for what we're doing here on the Lunch Learn and everything with Pierre Medical Consulting. And if you have not done so, go ahead, and join the listserv. To join the listserv is very easy. Just grab your phone right now. I'll pause. Join the listserv. You want to text Lunch Learn Pod. This is all going to be one word, Lunch Learn Pod, to 44222. And you'll be on the listserv. You'll know exactly when new episodes are coming out. You'll know about new episodes before they actually come out, because I usually tell my listserv members, hey, this is what I'm working on. These are the guests that you should expect to hear for the week on. Thank you, guys. You have a blessed day, and I'm going to see you guys next week.